I am an introvert, and I love it. And I'm not alone. Introverts are everywhere, and our quiet approach to life, our need for solitary time, isn't a flaw, it's a gift. But as an introvert, it's not always easy to realize how wonderful you are. The world feels like a place that rewards extroverts, where being loud is mistaken for being confident and happy, where everyone has something to say, but nobody listens. A world of open-plan offices, networking parties, and big personalities. For those who speak softly, it's easy to feel left out. As a child, I blended into the background. Many thought that I had little to say or that I simply didn't like others, but that wasn't true. People often think introverts are shy or antisocial, but these are misconceptions. Introverts, like anyone, can find socializing fun, but while parties leave extroverts energized, after some time, introverts need to recharge away from everyone. There's a scientific theory for this. There are two important chemicals found in all our brains: dopamine and acetylcholine. Dopamine is like a hit of energy when we take risks or meet new people, and it makes extroverts feel great. But introverts are more sensitive to dopamine and get quickly overstimulated. That's why we prefer the more slow burn feeling we get when our brains release acetylcholine. That happens when we concentrate, read, or focus our minds. It makes us introverts feel relaxed, alert, and content. But it barely registers with extroverts. Of course, like anything, it's a sliding scale. You can lean one way or another, or be a bit of both, known as an ambivert. Now I understand myself better. I am deeply grateful for how I am. Instead of filling up space with small talk, I listen patiently and make my words matter. I have few friends, but our connection is deep. I love spending time alone. It's where the chaos of a long day can finally settle. I can reflect and listen to my thoughts, and eventually reconnect with myself. Only after that am I ready to share with the world again. I've learned strategies for finding comfort in our noisy world, from using music to create bubbles of peace, to escaping to a quiet park at lunchtime. I adore the intensity and chaotic beauty of the world, but it's in quiet spaces where I feel truly at home. If introversion were more valued by society, it could make a massive difference to our collective future. The unique attributes of introverts really are a deep, quiet strength. And as Gandhi put it, in a gentle way, you can shake the world.
First of all, you have to know what the definition of introversion and extroversion are, right? Socially awkward is not, I know socially awkward extroverts, right? It's not if you're uncomfortable, it's not social awkwardness, that's not introversion. I like, in terms of, it's Susan Cain's definition, it's about energy, which is an introvert loses energy from social interaction, an extrovert gains energy from social interaction. So an introvert wakes up in the morning with 5 coins, every social interaction they spend a coin, at the end they are depleted. An extrovert wakes up with no coins, every social interaction they get a coin, and by the end they feel rich. Like going to a party, they give them energy, versus going to a party sucks your energy.
So
right?
then I'm an introvert.
Right. So I'm a big introvert, right?
Yeah.
And what I have learned is I have a big personality, but I'm still an introvert. So what I've learned is that it doesn't matter which one you are. The question is how do you leverage what you got, right? And so I go to parties with an extrovert, right? Because that way they can do all the talking and I can just stand there and just eat the cheese. And
that is fantastic.
By the way, you can always spot me. You can always tell, you go to a party with me and you will see me standing in corners or lingering by and when there's a barbecue, I'm always the chef because then I don't have to talk to anybody, right? But if you notice, I've learned to leverage what I have. So it makes me a much better public speaker to be an introvert because I don't like holding court. It freaks me out. But I like talking to individuals. So you'll notice when I speak, I talk to you, and then I talk to you, and then I talk to you, and I give everybody a whole idea or a whole thought, which actually what I learned helps me actually connect with an audience much better. But it's because I'm an introvert. So if you're an introvert, of course you can be a leader. It has nothing to do. Some of the best leaders, have you ever heard of Jim Senegal? Most people haven't, because he's awkward and shy. He's a phenomenal leader. He's the founder and former CEO of Costco, right? Like there's phenomenal leaders. Richard Branson, introvert. He's really awkward, right? Like these are phenomenal leaders who are all introverts, right? But the one thing they all have in common, whether you're extroverted or introvert, is undying belief in your cause, right? And the charisma is not how much energy you have. The charisma is how much you're willing to devote to that. And if it's all of it, you have charisma, you have leadership capacity.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind, the show that allows you, the viewer, wherever it is that you watch us, to sound off, to speak your mind, to let us know what's inside of that brain of yours regarding any topic, every topic, and all the topics that we have every single night. And so today, we are talking to you, introvert, or you, extrovert, or whatever vert you want to be called. The question that we're asking everybody now, who contributes more to personal happiness, or what would contribute more to personal happiness and overall social well-being? We already opened up the poll, Miss Audrey, and this person can definitely cast their vote now. Throughout the whole program, we're going to be reading their comments, correct?
Correct, Pastor. As the QR code appears on the screen, they can go ahead and scan it and vote on the following, as we have the question for everyone. Which personality traits contributes more positively to personal happiness and overall social well-being? We have the following that they can vote, which is: the world needs more extroverts to bring people together. Call me a chameleon, comfortable in a variety of social situations. Or socializing is exhausting, leave me alone. So there we have it. They can go ahead and vote, and we'll be announcing the results during our program.
Perfect. And maybe you're watching us right now and you go, what is an introvert? Maybe this person, Lupita, who's watching us right now, they go, what is an extrovert? How do I know which one I am? Do we have the definition, Lupita?
Yes, good evening. We definitely have the definitions to both of them. An introvert is a shy, reticent person, right? Someone that obviously doesn't talk much. And we have an extrovert who is an outgoing, overtly expressive person. So maybe you define yourself as either one of these, and it's okay to be both or one. So those are the definitions of these two words.
You can be both.
You
can be an introvert and an extrovert.
Yeah, it's called an amnivert, I think.
Now you're making up words. But anyway, we'll be back with all of you guys. I think we already have our first caller. Let's see if we can connect Carolina right now, who is on the line. Let's see if we pull her through. Miss Carolina, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir, I can hear you.
Miss
Yes,
Carolina?
I can hear you.
No?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Miss Carolina, we're asking, well, first and foremost, let me ask you, do you consider yourself an introverted person or an extroverted person?
Oh man, I think I can be a little bit of both, but towards the introverted. I think I can. I try, but I feel like I tend to go towards the introverted.
And why would you say that?
I think personally, I think I used to be like a really outgoing, extroverted person, but over time, I kind of started keeping to myself, and I felt more comfortable like that. I know there are situations where even though I don't feel comfortable, I kind of have to go and talk. You know, responsibilities kind of force you into that, into communicating and socializing. But if I'm being honest, there are times where I kind of like to shrink back into my little bubble, like kind of only come back when necessary. Like there are I like to have my space.
Now, Carolina, I really do appreciate the honesty and the transparency. Do you think like you said, you go back to your little bubble, do you think in any way, shape, or form that can kind of stop you from certain opportunities that can maybe even hinder your happiness a little bit?
I think there are times where it can. I think there are times where I notice that I have to push myself, because if I don't, I'll be missing opportunities, whether they're at school, at work, even with friends or family. I realize I do have to kind of push myself to take advantage of these opportunities, because if I don't, I'll be missing out, or I could even be looked at as rude, or there are times I kind of have to push myself if I don't feel like that.
Now, Carolina, let's say there's somebody who's watching us who's an introverted person, and they go, I feel like I need to be a little bit more out there. I feel like I need to be a little bit more expressive. I need to be an extrovert. Or maybe there is an extrovert who was just like you, and they're slowly going or fading into becoming someone who's more introverted. What would you say to them? Do you think there's something that can kind of help or maybe even balance out the things that we face nowadays?
Yes, definitely. I think it's very important to kind of have a balance. I think there are times where it's good to express ourselves, share our opinions, kind of like the video said, be very like a leader, especially in a professional environment. But there are times where we kind of have to, hold back. Not our opinion isn't always the most important thing. So I think it's very important for that person who is either very expressive, kind of know when to hold back, know where their limit is, and for that person that's a bit quieter, a bit more introverted, to push themselves and know that there are times that they are going to have to speak up. If not, they'll be kind of held back.
Spoken like a true experienced intro/extroverted person. Carolina, thank you so much. Have a good night, okay? Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Now, the next video we want to show you guys is how they compare, how an introverted person and an extroverted person kind of have the same thing or the differences between them. Pay close attention. We'll be right back.
Introvert and extrovert are personality types popularized by the 20th century Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, who used the theory to better understand various behavioral patterns and attitudes of his patients. An introvert is a person whose attention and interest is typically directed inward toward their feelings and thoughts, whereas an extrovert's attention is focused more toward other people and the outside world. We all have the experience of both, but naturally sit more strongly on one side or the other. So what can we learn about ourselves when we understand which side of the personality fence we are sitting on? And how does this influence our career choices, relationships, and overall lifestyle? That's what we'll find out in this episode of the infographic show, Introverts versus Extroverts. We started out by looking at these personality types within the workplace and found an article in the Huffington Post that featured a very simple chart displaying the key behaviors of both extroverts and introverts. Let's take a closer look. Where an extrovert tends to speak up in meetings, an introvert may only share ideas when prompted. Extroverts are fine with open workspaces, whereas introverts like working in quiet spaces. Extroverts enjoy praise and attention, whereas introverts do not. Extroverts are quick decision makers, and introverts tend to ponder decision making more carefully. An extrovert will open up to anyone, but an introvert confides in only a few. Extroverts are easily distracted, whereas an introvert is good at focusing for long periods of time. Extroverts easily accept change, but introverts tend not to. An extrovert speaks more, and an introvert is a good listener. An extrovert often has large groups of friends, but the bonds are less strong, whereas an introvert will have a smaller friends group, but with closer bonds. Extroverts enjoy group conversations, whereas introverts enjoy one-on-one communication. And extroverts like to recharge by being social, with introverts preferring me time and staying home alone. This is insightful, but how does it translate into the type of career we are best to choose? To understand this, we researched what the recruitment companies are saying. According to the Undercover Recruiter, extroverts thrive on careers that involve interaction with the general public and working as part of a team. Some examples are lawyer, construction worker, event planner, entrepreneur, or police officer. But jobs that allow a person to work independently are a better fit for introverts, and these include graphic designer, software developer, artist, or truck driver. What about some famous examples of introverts and extroverts? What did they choose to be in life? Starting with extroverts, one of the most well-known is Bill Clinton. The White House has mostly been occupied by extroverted men. The 42nd President of the United States was always energetic in his conduct, both in office and on the campaign trail. He will be remembered for being social, personable, and friendly to both friends and opponents. Clinton thrived in the limelight and energized the masses through televised speeches and public meetings. Then there's the famous boxer Muhammad Ali. He called himself the greatest, and he was as much a performer as a brawler. Muhammad Ali was a classic example of an extrovert and would taunt his opponents with his lively rhetoric as much as his heavy hands. He bounced around the ring, always certain to make a show of it, and in interviews he was never shy of the camera. Then there's British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who had a limitless supply of energy and would work all hours, often fueled by alcohol and cigars. And though he was running a country and fighting a war with Germany, he also found time to write, winning the Nobel Prize in Literature for his memoirs. As for famous introverts, Bill Gates, the founder of tech giant Microsoft, was known for having an incredible focus that allowed him to spend thousands of hours writing code. He spoke about how he had to learn some extrovert qualities, but he still seems more comfortable with technology than he is with people. You may think that sports people would tend to be extroverts, but one famous baseball player who was firmly planted in introvert territory was the Yankee great Joe DiMaggio. He was not shy at the plate, but was shadowed by the glare of his wife Marilyn Monroe and was rarely heard from after his retirement. And finally, we have Hillary Clinton, a very public lady who was actually very private. She lacks the outgoing sociable nature of her husband and has had to work at her extroverted side. In 2015, CNN quoted that when Hillary was asked, "Are you an extrovert or an introvert?" she replied, "I am an extra introvert." We've looked at careers. What about relationships? Girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, or wives? Is there an ideal matchup? Well, we just mentioned Bill and Hillary as being on opposite sides of the spectrum, so let's see if that's a good or bad thing. We found there is an abundance of information online about introvert-extrovert relationships, and what better place to look than one of the largest dating sites, eHarmony. This site has a matching algorithm based on data collected from interviews with more than 50,000 married couples in 23 different countries. eHarmony has concluded there are the following challenges couples face when trying to find the ideal personality match. The introvert may feel as though their partner doesn't truly understand them, as it's often difficult for extroverts to understand introverts. The extrovert will likely want to go out and socialize more than the introvert, which can cause conflict. The introvert may feel that the extrovert speaks too much and listens too little. Extroverts may get upset when their partner is not socializing with their friends. The extrovert might try to help bring out their partner's extroverted self, but this might be perceived as not accepting them for who they are. Not everyone can be so easily classified all of the time. There are also people whose personality styles change in predictable ways depending on the situation they find themselves in. For example, an introvert with a job that requires extrovert qualities may make a conscious choice to socialize because it's important for his or her career development. Equally, an extrovert who is leading a sales team may decide to take time out to listen to staff rather than barking orders all day. So though we have dominant characteristics, these are not necessarily fixed. And most people also sit naturally between the two personality types. They are known as ambiverts, and there are advantages to being an ambivert. With a personality type that doesn't lean too heavily in either direction, they have a much easier time adjusting their behavior based on the situation, enabling them to connect more easily with a wider variety of people. There are clearly many differences between introverts and extroverts, and though understanding your personality type is useful and it's possible to adapt and change in some situations, it may not be the be-all and end-all, as accepting and being happy with who you are naturally is often just as important.
Hey, what should we do tonight? I have a lot of energy after a long week, and I'd like to leave the house to share my excitement with total strangers.
I don't know. What were you thinking?
For the love of all things holy, I just want to stay home and not talk to anyone, even people who live in this house.
What about trying that new restaurant downtown, meet up with some people from work? I have to get out of this house. Please get me out of this house.
That could be fun.
I'd rather stab my eye out with a rusty fork than meet up with people at a crowded restaurant right now.
Should I text a few friends, see if they'll meet us? I have so many friends that will share my excitement.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Please do not include anyone else.
Or we could just stay in our neighborhood and go to our usual place. I do not care where we go as long as there are people I can talk to.
Oh yeah, our usual spot.
Penn is like the mayor of that place. Everyone there will come and talk to him. And then Penn will say, hey, do you guys want to join us? And then they will join us. And then we will say, we should go on a vacation together. And then we will plan a vacation together that none of us want to go on because we are friends, but we aren't friends. But we will never take the trip because we suck like that.
Great! I can tell by her reaction that she is not into this.
Or Hear me out. We stay in and order delivery.
I really, really do not want to leave. How can you not see this?
Oh, so the same thing as last week?
Oh, crap.
I know. I made a resolution to get out more.
No one keeps the resolutions. Please don't make me. You should have known what you were getting into when you married me. I told you. I don't know why I am this way, but here we are.
You know what, honey? We can just get delivery.
The last thing I want to do is order in.
It does sound fun, right?
Nothing thrills me more than wearing my 20-year-old sweatpants.
Yeah, sounds fun.
I have been in this house all day and will now be in this house all night. I am a prisoner in my own domain.
Okay, let's call for delivery.
I will not be calling for delivery. I do not want to talk to a person on the phone.
Oh, I can call. What do you want?
Maybe the delivery person will want to have a conversation. Dear God, I need social interaction.
Oh, you know me. I'll eat anything.
I will not eat just anything. I will eat one thing, and it is your job to guess what that is.
You know what? The line is busy. So I tell you what, I'll just go to the bar and I'll pick it up there.
I lied. The line is not busy, but I need to get out of the house. Maybe the bartender will want to talk about sports with me.
Okay, hurry back.
Finally, I will have the house to myself. I hope it takes you an hour to get home.
Oh, I will, honey.
I hope it takes me an hour to get home.
And we're back with all of you, 877-785-8700, or you can send us a voice message through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. Mrs. Audrey, I think we have a little bit more comments regarding our topic, correct?
We do, Pastor. We have William that says like this. I just wanted to say I am an extrovert. And I always believe that extroverts and introverts just have different strengths and weaknesses. I let my introverted friends be quiet when they want and try to give them some attention when they seem to have something they want to say. I found that just works best for us. In return, they let me know as an extrovert when I'm being too much. And so this balances out our friendships. And so I'd like to say that for those that feel like they're an introvert and feel embarrassed to be one, it's okay. Just find the friends that will help you bring out a little bit of yourself when you want to and when you're comfortable. So we have William that says like that, and we have Olivia that says, as an extrovert who wants to be an introvert, I don't really get it. Sometimes I honestly feel like I'm more harshly judged now, and I'm just a big ball of energy. It just depends on the person and who I'm speaking to. And that's the comments that we have so far, Pastor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Audrey. And I think we already have somebody on the phone. Let's see if we can connect them now. Jonathan. Jonathan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Good in yourself?
Good. Jonathan, we're asking everybody, well, first and foremost, let me ask you, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I consider myself an extrovert.
Okay, and why is that?
Honestly, because I'm very social. I am very, very talkative. I like being around people. Honestly, I just don't find myself always alone, I'm always with someone, especially with my job, I'm always communicating with someone. I'm a salesperson, so I sell cars. So, you have to have that social skills to be able to talk to them, you know what I mean?
Now, Jonathan, do you think in any way, shape, or form, being an introverted person, in other words, being the opposite of what you said you were, do you think that can kind of set you back? You think that can even lessen the probability of you being happy? Or do you think you being an extrovert can actually contribute more to that personal happiness?
Honestly, it could be both ways, Being an introvert, it has its pros and its cons, Sometimes you want to be isolated from other people for some specific reason. But for example, like in a job, or you have a job interview, or you're trying to get a job in this place that you need that communication. Honestly, it's not really going to help the situation, especially because you're very, very to yourself,
Yeah.
So it doesn't really help the situation.
Mm-hmm. And for example, like you said, I remember sometimes when we would interview people in the bakery where I used to work at, a lot of them sometimes would put on a front. They would say that they were a team player, but when it came to throw down, they would be away from everybody. They didn't want to talk to anybody. They didn't like communicating with anybody. They didn't want to be part of the team. And unfortunately, that hindered their progress. That kind of stopped them from growing within the company. do you think you see more benefits being an extroverted person, or do you also see a bad side of being an overly extroverted person?
Honestly, I honestly don't see. It could be both ways. Being an extrovert can help you get to a spot. Especially like with communication, especially like if you're trying to get a promotion as
Okay.
being a manager or being a supervisor. Like it's very necessary for you to be able to have those people skills, or even being very talkative to a certain limit. If you talk too much, then honestly, it's just gonna ruin the fact of you even getting a promotion. Why? Because they're gonna see you as a person that's not taking their job serious. So it could be both ways.
There's pros and cons, correct, to being an extrovert.
Yes, that's correct.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
thank you so much for speaking your mind. Have a good night, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, take care. And Lupita, I think we have more comments regarding our topic. One of the videos that we saw right now was about a married couple, about somebody who wanted to go out and somebody who just wanted to stay home. And those little things, when you see couples, it's like an introvert and an extrovert. Do you think that kind of can stop them from going forward as a couple?
I don't think so. I think there should be a equal balance between the relationship. I definitely think one from the other rubs off. So if the person is an extrovert and the other one is an introvert, I definitely think the habits from one to the other will rub off. So definitely the relationship will move on either way, because if they both make it work and at the end of the day they come to an agreement on what they think, then their mindset will be the same thing towards their future. So if one is an introvert and the other one is an extrovert, then I definitely think they are a perfect balance.
And any comments from our
Yes.
topic?
So we have Skylar, who says, being an introvert, I was told that I was not normal as being too quiet and that I might need help. But over the years, I feel more comfortable being who I am and not being what someone else expects. Though there's still a minimum need to meet fake and conformity. And there's Diana that says, as an extrovert who used to be an introvert, I really don't get the whole being an extrovert is celebrated by most people. I ain't gonna lie, most of my life has been people telling me to be quiet. I honestly feel more harshly judged now that I'm a big ball of energy. Interesting alternative perspective.
Awesome, awesome. And what do you think sets extroverts and introverts apart? We're going to go to our second segment, and we'll be right back with all of you.
Does being around groups of people make you energetic, or does it exhaust you? And if you're the sort of person that, will go to a party and interact with 20 people, and then you have to go home and be by yourself for like 2 weeks, then you're introverted. Introverts are exhausted by social interactions. Extroverts are the opposite. They're energized by social interactions. And you might be in the middle, so that you can take it or leave it with regards to social interactions, but you're happy to go to them and you're happy to spend time by yourself. But a real extrovert, there'll be some of you in here. How many of you can't stand spending time alone? Okay, so there's only 2 that will admit it. Extroverts are more likely to admit that sort of thing too, by the way. And how many of you like to spend time alone or would rather be alone? Okay, so there's a preponderance of introverts in this class, by all appearances. But that's a pretty canonical question for extroversion versus introversion. It's a very stable trait, by the way. It manifests itself early in life, and it's stable across the age span. Not completely. Introverts can learn to be extroverted. The extroverts can learn to spend time on their own. I think that actually your capacity to expand your ability past the initial constraints of your biological temperament is something like the development of character or wisdom. So if you're an introvert by nature and you learn how to be extroverted, then that expands your domain of competence. And if you're extroverted and you learn to be introverted, the same thing. But it's almost like, imagine a distribution of introversion here, extroversion here, a normal distribution. You're set when you're young at somewhere along that distribution with some range around it. And I think what you do as you mature, if you develop your skills, is you expand that range, but you're set, the place at which you're set doesn't move that much. So, okay, so you can think about them as sub-personalities. You can think about them as frames of reference. So frame of reference would be something like, well, since you're extroverted, you value being with people. And so you're going to look at the world For example, if you're extroverted, you come into a room like this, you think, oh, look, it's a whole field of opportunity for social interactions. And if you're introverted, you think, well, maybe I'll go sit up in the corner and hope everybody leaves me the hell alone.
I really don't like people. I'm sorry, I don't. That's just who I am.
Talk to me about that. What do you mean you don't like people?
I just don't like being around a bunch of people, and it's kind of ironic because I can go out in an arena full of 20,000 people and be all right with it. Only because I feel like I feel like I'm in this dome and I'm protected, you know. But you get me out in public or anywhere around a bunch of people, and I don't do well.
Are you
like
antisocial, or is it I don't want to say a phobia? Is it just?
It's not a phobia. No, I just don't. I get uncomfortable.
You don't mix well with others for a shoot.
No, I don't play well.
And it's not like you're trying to be. That's just who you are.
That's just who I am. That's why I live out in the middle of nowhere. That's why I got a 8-foot fence around my property. That's why I shut the gate when I come and go. That's just who I am.
Let's look at the social homeostasis circuit through the lens of what's commonly called introversion and extroversion. Now, typically when we hear about introverts, we think about the quiet person at the party or the person that doesn't want to go out at all. And we think about an extrovert as somebody who's really social, the so-called social butterfly, who enjoys social interactions, is really chatty, is kind of a life of the party type person. That's the cliche, or the kind of pop psychology cliche. But actually in the psychology literature, that's not really the way it holds up. Many people who appear introverted are actually extroverted. The quiet person at a party could be an extrovert, except that they just don't talk very much. The characteristic of an extrovert is somebody that gets energy or feels good from social interactions. They sort of get a lift. And we can predict that that lift occurs because of some release of dopamine within their brain and body. And indeed, there's evidence for that. Neuroimaging studies support that. Other forms of neurobiological analysis support that as well. We can also imagine that the person who's talking a lot is somebody who's very extroverted. But oftentimes people who talk a lot for their work, or there's somebody who's very social when you interact with them, that person gets back to their car and is absolutely depleted and exhausted by that interaction, or also sorts of social interactions. So we really can't predict whether or not somebody is an introvert or an extrovert simply based on their behavior. It's really more of an internal subjective label. However, if we look at introversion and extroversion through this lens of the social homeostatic set point, and we think about dopamine as this molecule that drives motivation to seek out social interactions, what we can reasonably assume is that introverts are people that when they engage in certain forms of social interaction, either the amount of dopamine that's released is greater than it is in an extrovert. That's right. I said greater than it is in an extrovert. And so they actually feel quite motivated, but also satisfied by very brief, or we could say sort of sparse social interactions. They don't need a lot of social engagement to feel sated. Again, the parallel example would be hunger. This would be somebody who doesn't need to eat much in order to feel satisfied. Whereas the extrovert, we can reasonably assume, releases less dopamine in response to an individual social interaction. And so they need much more social interaction in order to feel filled up by that interaction. And indeed, this is supported by the neurobiological imaging studies. So rather than think about introverts and extroverts as chatty versus quiet, it's useful to think about people, maybe yourself, maybe other people you know, as how much social interaction they need in order to bring the social homeostasis into balance.
I noticed you've been talking the last 30 minutes. I just wanted to check in, see if you're okay. Does your mouth hurt from moving that much? Or do you need somewhere to go and calm your central nervous system?
I saw you having dinner the other night with a bunch of people. No, I'm not judging or anything. I could never do it. I think that takes real bravery. I can't even go to a movie with another person.
Have you always had such high self-esteem? Like even when you were a little kid? My teachers would have beaten that out of me. You don't need to go out every weekend.
You're just oversharing a lot, so I wanted to see if you were upset or something. I used to do that too. I'd get really overstimulated and I would just dump all of my trauma, my breakup, any little thought that popped into my head into anyone who wanted to listen or people who didn't want to listen. There is hope. I grew out of it. And I think you can too.
Justin told me you volunteered to do public speaking. Are you feeling okay? Like feverish? Any weird rashes or anything? I heard shingles manifest in really strange ways. Spend a Saturday under a blanket
with a book, just curled up by the fire. I promise you, it's gonna change your life.
Therapy can do wonders for oversharers like you. Something wrong with your ears? Because you just don't seem to be listening to anything anyone's saying. Okay, can you tell me what Kyle just said just now? Or the book that I'm currently reading? I just talked about it. Yeah, I really feel like you need to make an appointment with your ENT because clearly something is off. Are you sure you're okay? I noticed that you have like 50 best friends. Have you ever tried breaking out of your comfort zone and trying to maintain like 1 or 2 close bonded friendships? You can't go around calling every stranger and their mom your best friend, because then that just kind of negates the best of it. Just think about it, okay? And if it doesn't work out, that's totally fine. You know, not everyone has that ability to maintain 1 or 2 close, intimate friendships.
And we're back with all of you. If you are watching us now and you say, you know, I am an introvert, I'm an extrovert, you still want to sound off, you can do that. 877-785-8700. I think now we have Leslie on the phone. Let's see if we can connect her right now to get our last caller of our program. Miss Leslie, can you hear me?
Yes, Pastor. I can hear you.
How you doing, Miss Leslie?
Hello, Pastor. Nice to hear from you.
We're asking everybody the following question, so I'm going to go and I'm going to ask you now. Do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I consider myself an introvert, Pastor.
And why would you say that?
I've always been the type of person that when I'm with people that I know, I come out with who I really am in the inside. But when I'm with people that, you know, sometimes I don't really know, I really kind of close myself down. So I'm not, with people that I know, I'm more outgoing than with people that I'm not too knowing.
Now, Ms. Leslie, do you think being an introvert or maybe being too much of an extrovert, do you think that can kind of stop you from growing? Can even, you know, you miss out on opportunities? Have you ever seen maybe the bad side of being an introvert?
Definitely when you're an introvert, people may say that you're missing out and you're not doing much. You're not really out there in the world. You're not really out there making friendships. But I find myself that even though I'm more on the calm side, more quiet, I feel that when I come to find someone or I have a small conversation, whoever it may be, I feel like the conversation is more close because I'm able to have more time with the person, and instead of maybe saying something that sped up the conversation, I'm able to actually have a good conversation with the person.
So although maybe on the outside of things, it can even look like a con, but you make most of the conversations that you do have, you make it a little bit more intimate, you make it a little bit more relatable. Do you think the same goes for an extroverted person?
I think it can go for an extrovert person. It's just that it's more faster for them to actually go out there and speak to someone. Like it won't be as difficult, and they'll have that confidence faster than someone who's more of an introvert.
And now my last question to you, Miss Leslie. Do you think, we spoke about speaking with people, touching other people, etc. Do you think maybe being an introvert can kind of even stop someone from being happy or even more happier?
I don't really think it can stop someone from being happy. The world may maybe see it as that we are some people that, you know, don't want to give more. But I feel like a person who is an introvert can be happy as well in their own way.
Perfect. Spoken like a true introvert, Leslie, a true balanced introvert. Thank you so much for speaking your mind. Have a good night, okay? God bless you.
Thank you, too, Pastor.
Take care, take care. Miss Audrey, we have the results of our poll, correct?
Correct, Pastor. As we have been asking everyone the following, which personality traits contributes more positively to personal happiness and overall societal well-being? 17% have voted the world needs more extroverts to bring people together. 19% of people say socializing is exhausting, leave me alone. And the majority say 64%, call me a chameleon, comfortable in a variety of social situations. There we have the final results for our program tonight.
Miss Audrey, would you be, if, out of these three options, which one would you have voted for?
Oh boy, I don't think it's here.
You're definitely the whatever Lupita said it was, the ambivert.
Something
What
like
was
that.
it? Lupita, if you had to choose of these three options, which one would it be?
I'm definitely a chameleon. I can adapt to anything. So if I can adapt, then I know I'll be good.
Off air, you said you choose the one that said, leave me alone. If you're watching us right now and you probably go, well, I am an introverted person or I'm an extrovert. Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, it's really easy when you look into the character of who Jesus was, Jesus Christ. The Bible in the book of Luke, it shows us that with frequency, Jesus would go away alone to go pray, to go talk to God. He wasn't around a lot of people, but in many moments, he was to himself, strengthening a relationship that really did matter. Unfortunately, a lot of people who don't have this mindset, they are alone with their own thoughts. And the thing is, me and you, we get thousands of thoughts every single day. Maybe even as you watch this right now, even in my head, I get different thoughts. But even though that can be true, I must always be careful because sometimes our worst enemy can even be ourselves. But Jesus, when he was by himself, he would strengthen his relationship with God. And even in the moments when he was around a lot of people, I think Leslie over the phone said it. People who are a little bit more extroverted, they're able to reach others faster. With Jesus, when he was with a bunch of crowds, well, a bunch of people, in a multitude of people, he showed his power. So if you're somebody who's watching us now, and there are moments where you say, Pastor, I just want to be alone. Well, in that moment that you feel alone, gather your thoughts, talk to God. In that moment that you say, Pastor, I take charge of a lot of people, my family, my coworkers. What do I do? Well, in that occasion, you rise to it and you show the power of God. So if you're watching us right now and you're somebody who you already participate of a church, you're somebody who maybe you call yourself a believer, yet you haven't seen that power yourself. First and foremost, what we want you to do now where you are is to ask God. You look, you pray to God. Because especially if you're alone right now, do what Jesus did. In the book of Luke, with frequency, Jesus would go away and pray. So after this testimony, I want you to take advantage. I want you to go into the bathroom or go into your room or wherever you are, and I want you to make a prayer. Strengthen yourself in these moments that you have. And if you're watching us now and you say, Pastor, I'm in need of a miracle. I've been suffering for so long. Well, then that's where you use that faith and you leave where you are to be here with us this Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning in our gathering of faith in miracles all around Toronto. And it doesn't matter where you watch us from, whether it's Markham, Etobicoke, if I even pronounced it right, whether it's Kensington Market, whatever area here in Toronto, and you want a way out, you want to stop suffering, we're located here in Toronto, 2420 Dufferin Street. If you want, you can even take a photo right now of how we look on the outside. We're right there on the corner of Bowie Avenue, and we're about a block and a half from Eglinton Avenue. The moment you see that place, you're going to walk in and you're going to notice a change. You can take the 29 bus, the 929 bus, and you're going to be right there in front of our building. This Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning, okay? 2420 Dufferin Street. I want you to pay attention to the story of Alice. Alice, who lived a life of suffering, but now she's completely changed. Pay attention. God bless, and see you soon.
My depression started when I first came to Houston because I left my family and I felt that I was really lonely. So I didn't have anyone to lean on, anyone to talk to. I didn't know anyone in this city. Started to look for friends on social media. I started asking my friends, hey, do you know anyone here that we can go to a party, that we can go do something, because I don't want to be by myself. So I did encounter people that introduced me to alcohol, because before it, I didn't drink. So it was a thing that I used to do constant. It started every other week, but then it went from every other week to every week. And then it went from every week to every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I would drink to the point of forgetting what I was. I would drink to the point that my friends had to carry me and bring me to my house. So it was very, very bad. I do remember those times, but I did all of this because I was lonely. Actually, at the moment, I felt very excited. I felt good at the moment because when you drink, you feel like you're forgetting everything. But then when you come back to your sense, the loneliness comes 100 times even worse. So it didn't help me. I remember waking up crying, calling my mom, saying, I want to kill myself. I don't want to live anymore. I don't like this life. I just feel lonely. I want something that will help me, but I didn't know where to find it. There is a friend of mine that she was coming to the Universal Church here in Houston, and she invited me to come once. So I said, okay, I can come. So then I came the first day. I immediately saw something different. The way the pastors were praying, the sisters were praying, the way they came to greet me, to talk to me at the door. Immediately, the first day that I came, I said, oh, this is very nice, because I've never been to a church where they pray like this, where I can tell that they really care about you. So then I started coming little by little. I came once every other month, but then I started coming more and more. I started doing my chain of prayer because I understood that the loneliness that I was feeling before, it was depression. So I was depressed. And when the depression left, my goal was to receive the Holy Spirit, because I know that if I did not have the Holy Spirit inside of me, that eventually I would feel depressed again. I would feel the desire of drinking again, of partying again. So then when I received the Holy Spirit, it was the greatest joy that I have received in my life. Inside of me, I feel inside I have peace. So I think the word itself that I can describe is that I have peace. I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I don't have to worry about what my family will think, my friends will think, people outside will think. So I have peace inside of me. The world can collapse, but inside of me, I have peace.
Lift up my eyes